Episode 33. The Fire of the Elders. The jungle's pulse thrummed as Kane Voss followed the old man through a maze of glowing vines and bone-like branches, the air thick with sap and menace. His wrists, raw from vine shackles, ached, but he kept pace, his wiry frame taut, dark eyes scanning the shadows. The old man, hunched, barely 5 feet, his bark robe swaying with bone beads, moved with eerie grace, his twisted staff clicking against the earth, its glowing crystal casting flickers of light. His bald head gleamed, tribal scars etching his skin, and his luminous eyes, pale as moonlit sap, darted back to Kane, probing, unreadable. The tribal drums faded, replaced by the hiss of leaves and the distant screech of some unseen beast, Verdant's will pressing like a living weight. They reached a cave mouth, half hidden by a curtain of bioluminescent ferns, its jagged entrance exhaling cool, damp air. The old man paused, his staff tapping once, his gravelly voice a riddle. "In, young one. The fire waits, and truth burns hotter than venom." Kane's scarred cheek twitched, the dire wolf's burn still raw, but he nodded, stepping into the cave. The passage narrowed, its walls slick with moss, etched with faint carvings, spirals, stars, wolves with glowing eyes. The air grew warmer, laced with smoke and earth, as the tunnel opened into a wide chamber, lit by a crackling fire at its heart. The flames danced on a ring of smooth stones, casting long shadows across the cave's domed ceiling, where roots dangled like skeletal fingers. Around the fire sat 4 elders, their faces weathered masks of scars and paint, their robes, woven from bark and feathers, adorned with bone talismans. Their eyes, sharp, unyielding, fixed on Kane, weighing him like a blade on a scale. To the right sat a woman, commanding the space with a presence that stilled the air. Kaelira Windstrider, in her late 30s, was a vision of fierce grace, her lean frame coiled like a panther, clad in a tunic of woven vines and leather, dyed with streaks of ochre and green. Her raven hair, braided with feathers, framed a face of high cheekbones and piercing amber eyes that seemed to see through flesh to soul. A bone dagger hung at her hip, its hilt worn from use, and her bare feet, calloused from the wild, gripped the earth like roots. She was the tribe's heart, revered for her silent sprints through dense forests. Windstrider, a name earned in hunts and tales spun under starlight, her stories binding the tribe's past to its pulse. The old man shuffled to the fire's edge, his staff clicking, and raised a hand, his sing-song cadence cutting the silence. "Elders, Kaelira, behold the one the Moon Eater chose." Varathul's wrath marked him, his claws tasted his flesh. "This is Kane Voss, trespasser, seeker, bearer of truths or lies." Kane stood rigid, the fire's heat licking his scarred cheek, his dark eyes meeting Kaelira's amber gaze. The elders murmured, their voices a low hum, while the old man's luminous eyes studied him through the flames, grim and unyielding, a predator sizing prey. Kaelira rose, her movement fluid, deliberate, her voice a low, resonant blade, laced with Earthward's feral lilt. "Kane Voss, your steps have scarred our holy land. You and your kin trespassed in Varathul's realm, spilled the blood of sacred wolves, defiled the balance. These are crimes that demand blood in return. Speak your truth. Why are you here? Lie, and your group's bones will feed the vines. Speak plain, or death will claim you all." Kane's pulse kicked, but his slum-honed instincts kept his voice steady, rough with Freeland grit. "It's true we came looking for a man, an archaeologist named Beckett Rhodes. Some call him Jinx. I know it sounds strange, but it's the truth. We need him, because he might help us find a weapon, a device from a civilization older than history, buried deep in time. We're chasing it because there's a cycle coming. Aliens, sky people, whatever you call them. If they arrive, it's the end. The forest burns, the animals die. Humanity's done. That's why we're here, risking our necks in your jungle." The elders erupted, their voices a chaotic weave of shock and doubt, hands gesturing wildly, talismans clinking. One, a woman with white braids, whispered of sky demons, her eyes wide. Another, a man with a wolf skull pendant, growled about outsiders' lies. The fire snapped, casting their shadows into a frenetic dance, while the old man stood silent, his staff still, his luminous eyes boring into Kane, grim as a storm's edge. Kaelira raised a hand, silencing the elders, her amber eyes locked on Kane, searching for cracks. Her face softened, shock flickering across her sharp features, and she spoke, her voice steady but heavy. He tells the truth. I sense no deception in his words, no shadow in his heart. She turned, the elders following her gaze to the old man, their voices unified in reverence. Great leader Shaman Eldric, what say you of this trespasser's story? Kane's breath caught, his dark eyes snapping to the old man. Eldric, the true leader, not just a guide. The revelation hit like a shock knife, sharp and electric. Eldric's hunched frame seemed to grow, his presence filling the cave, his luminous eyes glinting with ancient fire. He stepped closer to the flames, his staff tapping a slow rhythm, his gravelly voice weaving a myth, its cadence a chant that bound the room. Listen, Kane, to a tale whispered through ages, passed from shaman to chief, carved in the bones of the earth. Long ago, before rivers carved their paths, before mountains rose from sleeping earth, the Star Mothers descended from the Sky Lodge in ships of fire and light. They walked among the first people, not conquerors, but teachers, tall, luminous, singing the stars' tongue. They gifted harmony, taught the ways of fire, seed, and stone, whispered balance. From their union with earth-dwellers came the bloodlines of the wind, whose kin still carry the sight in dreams, strength in bones. Eldric's eyes flared, the fire casting his scars into sharp relief. But the Star Mothers came not alone. Through the void, chased the Skel'aat. Twisted, cruel, born of a dead sun's shattered heart. Every age, they return through sky's cracks, drawn by fear, war, greed. They bring soul sickness, earth poison, feeding on chaos like wolves on wind. Our stories, etched on stone, sung in eclipses worn. When stars flicker, when the moon weeps blood, the battle begins anew. The elders leaned in, their faces rapt, while Kaelira's amber eyes gleamed, her posture taut. Kane stood frozen, the myth's weight sinking into him, the core's distant pulse a faint echo in his mind. Eldric's voice dropped, a velvet blade. The bloodlines of the wind awaken in that dark hour, guided by Star Mothers' spirit songs, by teachings hidden in old chants and dreams. They gather in sacred places, mountain peaks, deep caves, forest hearts, to summon skyfire and stand against the Skel'aat. This is the dance of the ages, not conquest, but survival, remembrance. Each telling prays the light rises again. Eldric paused, his luminous eyes pinning Kane, his staff tapping once, final. Your words, Kane Voss, echo our oldest truths. Jinx, Beckett Rhodes walks among us, a seeker of buried songs guarded by our kin in the deep jungle. The Moon Eater's choice marks you, a thread in the dance. But trust is not given, it is earned. You will face the trial of the Fang, a test of heart, wit, and blood. Pass, and we lead you to Jinx. Fail, and the jungle claims you. Kane's jaw clenched, his wiry frame bristling, but his voice stayed firm. Trial, huh? I've danced with worse than wolves. Bring it on. Kaelira's lips twitched, a flicker of respect in her amber eyes. Bold words, outsider. The trial is no game. It tests your soul, not just your blade. Prepare, for dawn breaks soon. The elders nodded, their murmurs softening, while Eldric's luminous eyes held Kane, a storm of wisdom and warning. The fire crackled, its shadows weaving the cave's carvings into life. Wolves, stars, ships of light. Kane's scarred cheek burned, the myth's weight merging with the destiny he couldn't shake. The jungle waited beyond, its pulse a drumbeat of fate, as the trial loomed, a crucible to bind him to Jinx or break him in Verdant's feral heart.